Why? He like hates this shirt. Oh, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video. I know it's been a minute. Thank you for sticking around. Go team. I just turned on my lights to film and the budgies immediately started chattering, so sorry in advance. People, the two biggest comments that I get for my channel are literally, your birds are really loud, and why do you use so many jump cuts? Simple answer to both of those things, I use jump cuts because my birds are really loud. You can only edit out so much like budgie chatter because it's non-stop all day. And we're all here to talk about animals. Wow, Cusco. We're all here to talk about animals, so you're gonna hear some animals. I can't do a whole lot about it. It's just, that's how it is. Anyways, I was away for a minute. I had a really bad cold. My voice sounded like mating cats, and I don't think we need more of that on the internet. So that's where I've been, but I'm back now, and now we're gonna get to know each other. Before the plague started, I posted on all of my socials asking if anybody would be interested in a Q&A, and I got bombarded with questions, which is awesome because this is still a super new channel. I'm still really new to this, so thank you so much to everybody who decided that I have interesting things to say, because I think I do, but anyone who knows me in my personal life knows that getting me to shut up is the actual, like, treat. A lot of these came from Facebook groups that I'm in, so I won't be linking those people's socials just because they're personal. But if you reached out to me on Twitter or Instagram, I will link your handle, link your username somewhere down here so people can find you. So thank you so much for asking me questions, and let's just jump in. Also, Cusco's here, in case you missed him. I know he's like really hard to find. He's very shy. All right, so this one is a little bit of a cheat. Came from my darling friend Shelby, who's also a dog groomer, so I'm gonna link her socials below. Go get your dog's haircuts. She wanted to know what my number one piece of advice for someone looking to get a bird is. I don't even think I could narrow it down to just one single piece of information. I think I would say to take whatever expectations you have of what bird ownership is like and chuck them. Just throw them out the window. Every bird is completely different. They are all individuals. Can you stop eyeing me up like you want to climb in my mouth? Case in point, I'm gonna put him away. Stop. We good? Can I move on? Okay. Don't think that just because you've read up on a species necessarily means that that's what you're going to be getting when they come home with you. Next question is, do I prefer flighted or clipped birds? So I'm actually planning a whole video on why I am adamant that birds should be flighted. Although right now I'm less so. No. I firmly believe that birds should be flighted for a cornucopia of reasons, the number one being safety. A lot of people think that if their flying is somehow hindered, that that'll make them a little bit safer because they can't get up as high or they can't fly out of your house. I don't know. It's literally fake news. Even fully clipped birds, and I have personally seen this myself, fully clipped birds, if they are outside, can easily catch an updraft or a breeze, and they will get lift and they will be able to fly. They won't be able to fly well, and it'll take them a lot more effort, but I know people who have lost clipped birds by having them outside thinking they were safe, and I know clipped birds who have been able to get lift outside because wind and air exist. Bird flight is not as simple as we would like to think as far as the mechanics go. So by cutting off their flight feathers, it doesn't inhibit them nearly as much as we would hope that it would. Additionally, if you have a cat like my roommate does, having a bird that is clipped means that if the cat is able to approach it, that bird is not going to be able to get away. It's a whole tangent. I'll just stop there. Next, are lovebirds good beginner birds? I don't think any bird is a good beginner bird. A lot of people make the mistake of getting a smaller bird when they really want a bigger bird, thinking that they'll kind of like ease themselves in, and then once they know how to take care of a budgie, they'll just move on up to a hyacinth macaw, and those are the same. They're not. Plus, it means that poor budgie is going to pay the cost of A, your beginner mistakes, and B, being your practice pet that you're going to end up either neglecting or rehoming so that you can get the bird that you truly want. If you want a bird, put the time in, put the research in, decide what you're committing to, and then go from there. don't make another animal pay the cost of your inexperience. Next question is, how do I feel about flight harnesses? Like, they're literally bird leashes, and they're what everybody who's not a bird person makes fun of when we take our birds for walks. Yeah, those. I think they're great. I think if you can get your bird in one, and get them to tolerate it, it opens them up to be able to have a lot of experiences that they wouldn't otherwise get. And birds are very intuitive, they're very interactive and very social, so they like those opportunities to explore. That said, I did once buy a flight harness for Cusco, and it was not worth the hassle of trying to convince him to wear it. It's sitting in a closet somewhere in an apartment that I don't even live in anymore, so that was a good purchase. Something that I've thought about trying again, but I mean, last time it just did not go well for us. Last bird question is, what is my dream bird to own? And this is great because my dream bird from the time I was a little kid was always budgies, and I have those now. They're fine. No, I love them. But from the time I was about 15 or 16, I really wanted a parrotlet, and they're really hard to get where I am. I'd always wanted a parrotlet, and then Indy literally just showed up in my life. I feel really lucky that Indy kind of stumbled into my life when he did, so I'm happy to have him, and I'm happy to give him the extra help that he needs. A lot of my questions were about fish, so if you don't want to talk about fish, this is the cutoff for you. Thank you for coming. If you enjoyed the first half of this video, like, subscribe, all the good things that you guys do, and I'll see you next time. Let's talk about fish. So Cass over on Twitter wanted to know if I would like to move up into bigger saltwater tanks or if I'm happy with my Nano. And the answer to this is, I love my Nano. I love it to death. I have zero regrets about my Nano. I think it's been like an absolute dream come true. I love it. I love the idea of having a very large tank, but I don't know if I'll ever be in a position in my life where I'm able to commit to having a very large tank. So for that reason, I'm pretty happy to stick with my Nano. Are Nano tanks harder than big tanks? And I get this question so often because if you look up Nano saltwater tanks, the very first thing you're gonna start seeing when you start doing that initial research is how much more difficult they are than saltwater tanks. And I would just like to come here to say I think that difficulty is a subjective thing, and what is easy for some people is not necessarily easy for others. Saltwater tanks that are bigger, so say over 50 gallons, are going to be a lot more forgiving with the water parameters, so you can kind of let things slide a little longer than you should without facing any major consequences. Whereas with saltwater nano tanks, you have a lot smaller volume of water that you're working with, so there's much less room for error. And you can't really like let your tank go, because as soon as those water parameters start to move around and nitrates and your ammonia start to get affected, you're going to run into problems quickly. In that sense, they can be challenging, but I have a chronic illness as well as a metal elbow that makes it hard for me to do a lot of heavy lifting. So for me to have a bigger saltwater tank is actually more work than for me to like micromanage this little one. The biggest difference between nano tanks and full-size tanks is that nano tanks are more kind of maintenance and administrative work, if you will, but larger saltwater tanks are more physical labor. I think as long as you practice good husbandry and you stay on top of both, then both should work out just fine, which I realize conflicts with a lot of the internet, but we're all here to discuss things and learn, so it's all good. Next question is, what is my dream saltwater fish? And I'm not gonna lie, I probably spent like a good 20 minutes today trying to think of an answer for this one. Didn't happen. There's so many fish that I would love to have, but for one reason or another, they're just not feasible. I really love triggerfish. I love tangs. I would love to have a big giant tank with a really big tang in it, or an octopus. But none of those are ever gonna happen for me, so I am happy to enjoy them in the ocean and at the Ripley Aquarium, which, by the way, I will be at in June if anybody wants to meet up. All right, so Destiny over on my Twitter wanted to know if I had $1,000 what I would spend it on. And I'm sorry that this answer isn't more interesting, but I would spend $1,000 on coral. That's it. I'd just buy, maybe I would probably update some cages, get everybody a nice little upgrade, but then the rest would definitely go to coral. Chris on my Twitter also wanted to know, sorry, I'm reading on my iPad. Regardless of money or space, what my dream pet would be. I really love big cats. I've always been a big cat person. I'm not really big into like small cats, like domestic cats. I mean, I love them. I grew up with cats. I would never be like, ew, I don't want a cat. Leopards are pretty cool. I don't know if I would want one as a house pet, but I would love the opportunity to work with big cats and, you know, get to know them within their environment or at a conservation center, anything like that. I would love to work with big cats. Chris also wanted to know if there's any animals that I'm afraid of, and the answer is no. There's kind of a running joke in my family that I've never met an animal that I didn't want, and I wish I could say that's not true, but it is. I was the kind of kid growing up that one time when we were on a hike, I found an eel in a little stream, and I wanted to bring it home, and I was like pretty distraught that we couldn't bring home this eel. We didn't bring it home. But going back to that fish question, I would really like to have an eel. Next question is, where do I do my research? So I think I do my research where most people do their research, the internet. We are incredibly fortunate to live in the age of information, fake news. No, seriously, I do most of my research online, so I'll usually start out on reputable site like BBC Nature or Live Aquaria for fish. Do research on that species in the wild and how that species behaves in the wild, and then once I feel like pretty comfortable with like a basic understanding of that species and their makeup, what they're like, then I'll move on to forums and start asking people about their care and what they've wished they'd known. A lot of the questions you guys ask me are questions that I ask people when I'm doing my own pet research. And of course YouTube. YouTube can be a really good learning space, because people will post their care guides and people will either agree or disagree. So you get to hear lots of different husbandry techniques, and then you can kind of decide which ones are right for you and your animal. Someone asked me why I don't have a dog. I don't have a dog on purpose. So my roommate and I intentionally moved to a building that is not dog friendly, because otherwise I will come home with a dog. I am a dog person through and through. I love dogs. I want many dogs. So many dogs, and I don't have the time or the means to care for a dog right now. So as a method of self-control, we just moved to a building that said, no, you can't have a dog, Ariel. So thank you to my beautiful landlords and our rental office for doing the Lord's work and cutting me off somewhere. If I could have a dog though, I would love to have a Shiba or an Akita. I'm really big into Spitz breeds. I love how challenging they are. I love how independent they are, and I love their loyalty. So they are pretty much the ideal dog for me, and hopefully, yeah, I'll have one in the future, but not anytime soon. Behold, the most common question I get, other than why are your birds so loud? Where did my account name come from? Where did Spicy Uterus come from? Originally, I started out as a chronic illness account over on Instagram. I have endometriosis. Without going too much into science here, it's when tissue that is similar to the lining of your uterus grows in other parts of the body. So it causes inflammation because your body attacks it, because it's like, that's not supposed to be here, even though it put it there itself. Causes internal bleeding, cysts, really severe pain, all kinds of good stuff. So one night I was talking to my best friend Morgan, link her below because she's awesome, and she was like, Ariel, your body isn't garbage, your uterus is just a little spicy. So that's where that came from, and then I moved over to the pet community and it stuck. So I'm not changing it, I like it, that's where it came from. Next, have I ever felt overwhelmed by my animals? This is a really hard question, and it's not really something that I like to talk about, but we're gonna. Yes, absolutely. I learned the hard way that it is not about the number of animals you have, it is about the number or the amount that you can give them. So I was in my third year of university and I got mono. I had asked my roommates to look after, at that point I had Cusco, Nala, and Chip, so the three of them. To look after them because I literally could not get off our couch. Like, I was super weak. I was sleeping most of the day. Like, if you've had mono, you know what I mean. They didn't look after them. They fed them, but they just left their cage doors open for 3 weeks, and the birds absolutely trashed my room. Like, they ate my blinds, like ate them. There was nothing left. Ripped paint off the wall. They ate the door frame. They pooped on everything. It was really rough. And I had to get my family to drive 2 hours to come and help me clean it all up. It was just really rough because as a young adult, especially in university, you want to be independent, and as a pet owner, would you just come here? And as a pet owner, you want to be confident in knowing that you can look after your animals. And I kind of just had to admit to myself that, you know, it wasn't anybody's fault, it just happened, but because all of those things and situations combined, I couldn't look after my animals, and that was really hard. And I hate asking for help. I'm a pretty independent person. I don't love needing help. So it was rough. I mean, we got it done. I obviously didn't rehome them, but it did definitely scare me, for sure, because I would never want to put my animals in a position where they're neglected because I can't care for them. So now I make sure that the people close to me are people I trust to look after my animals should anything happen. And the couple times that I've needed help since, due to like traveling or whatever, it's worked out really well. So you can't climb up my neck and bite me whenever you want. No, you can't do it. All right. Next question is, have I ever impulse bought? Yes, I have. I had a bad day at school and I went to the pet store and bought a Freedom Mouse. He was really cute. I named him Zaphod. It's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy reference. And I had him for just under 2 years, which is pretty good for a feeder. They're often not very well bred. And he was fully grown when I got him. He was super tame. We taught him how to play fetch. He used to like lay in my hand and sun himself out on our deck. Don't jump on the camera. He was really fun. I miss him. I would totally have mice again someday. Yeah, don't impulse buy. Do as I say, not as I do. I didn't impulse buy again, except that anemone. It's fine. How do I afford all these animals? Starters, I am almost 28. I had to think for a minute. I'm almost 28, so I'm a little bit more established than I was obviously in like high school or university. I pay my bills. I work 2 jobs is the main thing. So I work at a pet store that allows me to make sure I get exactly what these guys need. And I also am a horseback riding coach, so I work at a barn because I don't have enough animals in my life. Between those 2 things, that covers pretty much everything I need. Last question is my opinions on wild caught. I am also going to be doing a longer video on this subject at some point because I think it's really complicated. My initial reaction to this question is always no, I disagree with wild caught. But I also recognize that every exotic animal that's in the pet trade today comes from somewhere. Cusco is not wild caught. He's definitely captive bred. All of my birds are. But due to how long-lived birds are, it's very likely that either his parents or his grandparents were wild caught, which is really unfortunate. I do recognize that that is how captive breeding and domestication begin, are by taking things from the wild. But my initial response is always that nature doesn't belong to us. So it's a complicated one for me, and when I have a better formulated opinion on it, I will definitely do a video. I will say that I do try to get everything from my saltwater tank. Saltwater tanks are like almost always like wild caught. The only wild caught thing in there is my firefish, Milo. Everything else is captive bred. So my anemone was an anemone that split that I got from a girl online. My corals are all frags that were taken from heads that had split. Clownfish are captive bred. I didn't get live rock, so I'm trying. I'm doing the best I can to keep my pets in a sustainable manner because our reefs are not in good shape, as I'm sure we all know. That's a loaded question. Cusco, come here, we gotta do an outro. He totally did. You want to do the outro? Can you get off my camera? All right, you guys, that's it for this one. If you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button, all those things you know how to do. You've used YouTube before, hopefully. And if you have any more questions, pop them down in the comments section. This is a new channel, and I'm really enjoying getting to interact with everybody and getting to learn and share what I know. So please leave me a comment. I will respond to every single one. He's tangled in my hair elastic. And yeah, we will see you next time, which will hopefully be sooner rather than later. Bye, guys.